Right, guys, from chilly Bulgaria. It's been -12 last night and -15 the night before. But like we're surviving, we're okay, and I've got a few measures in place as well, and one of which failed me the night, not last night, the night before, which was my in the water chamber, which is in the tunnel. I call the tunnel. It's like a drive-through. It's actually within the house, but it's open to the elements, and that's where the fridge is. And there's actually in the fridge section, everything's freezing. It's that cold. So I've got to put stuff outside the fridge in the house here, and I put it over in the corner where it's cool. It's like because it's freezing. I had some like cut this cold meat, and it's frozen. I had to defrost it. That's in the fridge, not the freezer, because the fridge is outside in the tunnel, and I put it there because it was too hot in the summer. It was getting too hot. The actual casing of the fridge was inside, and the hotter it gets, the hotter the fridge gets on the outside to try and keep the inside cool. Um, so I was just reading about that there's a lot of medical students from Britain actually coming to study in Bulgaria. So the tables kind of turn. It's all a cycle. It seems that you wouldn't have dreamt of that like 15 years ago, but like it's here, and they're all coming here. I've seen them actually in Pleven, which isn't far from here, and we were driving through, and there was all these students, and well, they were obviously British. They were in Indians, and so they're coming to Bulgaria to study. So why would they do that instead of studying Britain? Well, it's very expensive to study in Britain, and it's very expensive now for the students' accommodation and power and things like that. So it says in the article that like over 2,500 British students are studying here, and it's the largest supplier of medical doctors and dentists in the UK. It's taken over now from all the other countries. So that's good news for Bulgaria, I would think. And I think they teach the courses they teach it they're in English, um, and there's some Bulgarians who study in Bulgaria. But it's absolutely, I think it's fantastic for Bulgaria, and it's just one more thing that's happening, and you see all these things happening now, where Eastern Europe is prevailing, and Eastern and Central Europe you would call. Some people call the Czech and Polish, Poland, Hungary, Eastern Europe as well, but it's classed as, I think it's Central Europe rather than Eastern Europe. So anyway, so another thing they're prevailing in, which I've noticed, is cars. I think the best cars now in Europe are made in Central and Eastern Europe, and they will be Skoda and Dacia, are coming on leaps and bounds. I mean, Skoda and Dacia in the olden days were hopeless. Well, I'm talking 20 years ago, but now they're the best. They're the Skoda. Can't fault them. And Dacia are coming out with these cars and campers now, and it's all based on like the very fuel efficient and the very and the cheap and the practical, and they're just hitting the right blend of all those things. And the campers, I think they're coming out. The basic model is €20,000. I think in this year they're coming out. Now, obviously, there's going to be lots and lots of different models and that. But anyway, the Dacia is made in Pitești, in Romania, which is actually due north of where I'm sitting, absolutely due north, over the Danube, and it's not that far from here really, Pitești, and I don't know what other towns. I think it's just there at the moment, Dacia, and the place is bouncing. We went through it the other 2 years ago, going to Brasov, and the place is bouncing. It looks very, as most cities do in Romania. They look pristine, and a lot of new buildings, a lot of development in Romania. They're slightly ahead of Bulgaria, I think, but Bulgaria's catching up. I mean, Sofia, the ring road. It's like the eighth wonder at the moment. All the new buildings and new businesses, and Plovdiv, around Plovdiv. There's a huge area around the ring road. Everything's brand new, and all these industrial areas and that. And so that's the way it's going in Eastern Europe, and it can only be, I don't know, it can only be good, I think. And Bulgaria's been developing at a nice pace. It hasn't gone boom, it's and then obviously the big bust. It's gone slowly over the last 20 years since I've been coming here. And now you don't want for anything here, nothing. And if you still can live cheap. Now that's changing a little bit, I think, and will change in the next 5 years or so. But they're being caught out now. All these shops, they're getting inspected now for hiking prices up, and they also got the wrist slapped during this the lockups for hiking fuel up and hiking up utilities, because they don't cost. Just because people are supposedly sick, it doesn't mean electric costs more to produce, does it? And if you think about it logically, and the world isn't logical at the moment, so they kind of blame things, like in the UK. They blame things on things that don't really exist, Like suddenly the prices go up on something. They say it's because of the conflict in Ukraine, and they don't even get the stuff from Ukraine or anything like that. And it's totally unrelated. What it probably is related to is the backfired sanctions, because all the sanctions, they backfired, and none so more so now than in the last couple of weeks, when the three Baltic nations, the little big men syndrome people, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, they took themselves off the Russian grid, which they've been getting cheap electricity. And it was just like when they were all cheering in the UK when they blew up the power stations. I always think that was the strangest thing, when you're blowing up all your technology, and everyone's cheering. and now they're paying the highest rates, probably maybe overtaken now by these Baltic nations. And someone summed it up quite good. They said, well, it might have been, they want to get off this grid, but they didn't put anything in place because they're now buying the electricity off Sweden. And I think it's Poland, Sweden and Poland. And what that does is just increase the prices. And it's doubled in the Baltic states. The price of electricity has doubled straight away. And they were all cheering now. And so why would you cheer? It's like someone knocking on the door here, and they said, right, we're gonna switch over the electric, but it's gonna be double the price next week. And I go, oh yes, oh, fantastic. Oh, can't wait. Can't you do it now? Double the price. Brilliant. And that's what they were doing. They were cheering. And they said they were free. Now free from Russia. But they're not free because they're getting it. They're relying on Sweden and Poland. So maybe what they should have done is got some of these LNG and made some power stations that they can make electricity from LNG or whatever. But it's the mentality, and you listen to them about about this Ukraine thing, this Kaya Kallas and people like that. She's Estonian. I think she's the foreign minister for the EU. Now, why the EU would have a foreign minister? I mean, who's she talking to? Because the EU's not a country. It's just an alliance. It was supposed to be an alliance between all these countries, and she's thinks she's speaking for everyone, and so does this Ursula von der Leyen, and they think that speaking on behalf of everyone, but they're not. They're only speaking on behalf of about 3 countries. Well, basically, it's France and Germany, and maybe a couple of others have a little bit of a say. Germany, yeah, I said Germany, sorry. And they've tried to marginalise all the other people. And Poland, they're very vociferous in when they have the EU Parliament. They're always giving it back to von der Leyen, people like that. And there's a bit of a riff now. I think it's, well, these things move slowly, but I think the writing's on the table that in the not too distant future, these things take years. They're gonna be. It's gonna more or less peter out. I can't say just breaking up all at once, but the ideologies are so different now, and you look at they're trying to get all this military stuff together now, and they've got no chance. And then the UK, they're another basket case now with Stormer, and he's I think he's the only one now who said he's going to send troops. And why would they send troops to Ukraine? So if there's peace, he said, if there's peace, they're going to send troops. Upside down world again. Why'd you send troops to peaceful areas? Because they're going to keep the peace. So the way they're going to keep the peace is with guns. But if there's peace and there's wars stopped, why would they need to do that? That'd be then peacetime. And they can, unless it's not peace. It's because that's what they said in between 2014 and 22. There wasn't peace in Ukraine. They said it was peacetime, but it wasn't. It was more or less civil war. And they've never said the word civil war, but that's what it was. That's what it was. It was Kiev versus Luhansk and Donbass, and they were actually shelling their own cities. It's like having the British Army outside Manchester. I'm shelling Manchester. That's what they were doing in Donetsk, and that's what and from places called Vuhledar and Avdiivka, they were entrenched there and shelling their own citizens, their own people, because they were kind of they didn't want to go along with the government, Poroshenko's government, which was put in place by America. I've got a splinter off the firewood. I should put gloves on, but I don't. And I've got a bit of a splinter. It's gone now. Another problem solved. Yeah. So the night before last, the water. I had this bulb in the chamber, and it's been on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the night that it's -15, I went in the middle of the night and tried the tap here just to see, and I run it now and again anyway just to make sure it's clear, and no water. And I went outside, -15, and I went outside in the middle of the night with a torch, and I turned the torch off because you can see the light then through the crack in around the chamber lid, and the light wasn't on. So it had gone off sometime during or before that night, and that was the night where I wanted it on. It went off, and I just wiggled the wire, and it came back on. So it was obviously, I don't know whether the cold caused it or whatever. Anyway, so it was frozen then, and I thought, well, that's the end of that water meter, because usually when it freezes like that, it'll just blow the water meter to pieces. But it didn't. So it must have been, there's like an elbow comes out and into the house, and it must have frozen there, I think. And so I eventually put the double bar fire in the chamber, and I uncovered the water meter, and it took hours and hours and hours, and I was heating it from inside as well, where the pipes go in, with a fan heater, and eventually it came back on, and so I've put 2 lights in there now, 2 bulbs, and they're like legacy bulbs. They're not LED. LEDs don't give off any heat. These get really hot. The old type bulbs, if you've ever touched one when it's gone off, thinking it's going to be cool, it's like, and they're red hot. So I've got 2 in there now, and I've got the tap dripping because it's super cold at the moment, and it's not even getting above 0 in the daytime. And this cold snap's going to be another, I think, another 4 days at least. So it's the beast from the east. It's coming down from, coming over from the Ukraine. So that's another thing that we can blame them for. So now hopefully I've got it sorted now anyway. So that was one good piece of news in the end. It was bad news in the beginning, and I keep the wood burner going now round the clock, just on tick over during the night, and then I get a bit of a bigger fire going. I'm just going to work out now how much per log it costs. I think it's about 45 pence a log, a decent sized log, and I'm going to do that by measuring a meter cube of wood, and then I'm going to count how many logs is in, because I can do that. It's against the wall here, and I know how many. It's 2.5 cubic meters from one end to the other, and so high. So I've just got to calculate how much is a meter, which is basically going to be halfway up the wall, and I'll count the logs then, and that'll tell me how much per log it is. And I think last time I did it, it was about 40 something pence, but it was cheaper last year, the wood, so I'm just gonna do that, and report back. So yeah, so it's all looking good with the students and that coming to Bulgaria to study medicine, and they might go back as well with a little bit of sense, because they won't have all the political correct stuff here in the colleges and that. That's what they'll be learning. Medicine. They won't be learning how to like change people's gender or anything like that. Not here, because it's banned. So there won't be any of that. So they might go back with a bit of a different outlook, shall we say. And once they see how it is here, and some of them might stay here. It's been known for things like that to happen, or come back, say, go back to England and say, no, this is depressing. Once they've been here for 4 or 5 years, they're gonna love it. I guarantee you. And because the colleges are in Varna, which is brilliant in the summer. Plovdiv, which is a great city, for young people. And they'd also get a price shock as well when they get back over to UK. And you might find that, although they're studying with going back to UK in mind, you might find they go stay here or go elsewhere, Australia, whatever. You never know. And anyway, so some of them will, for sure, absolutely, for certain, that they'll get back. They might go back to the UK, but they won't stay there long. But that's for sure. Once they've had a taste of Eastern Europe. Okay, cheers.